So just really quick before you watch this video, I know this is on YouTube. This was originally meant for my videographers that I'm training, even my business partners, so they can be aware of how to film and all of that for social media, but I decided to throw it on YouTube. So a lot of this doesn't totally apply perfectly to you, but it does have very general principles that can help a lot of people, and I hope it adds a little bit of value. So yeah, hope you enjoy. What's up? Welcome to film school. I would like you to take lots of notes while doing this. We're gonna get straight into the point. The main focus is podcasts. We'll also do talking head. I just want you to know lighting, composition, settings, all of that. So I'll try to keep it under like 30 minutes, but this is for you to use anytime you're doing a client shoot. Golly gee, my eye line, that's better. But yeah, this is for you to use anytime you're doing a client shoot or whatever, and this could also get published on YouTube, so that's a thing. So yeah, this is gonna be good. Make sure to take notes, and I will also have a Notion checklist for you. But yeah, let's do this. Alrighty. So, every single shoot, there's going to be an important checklist of making sure that you're getting things like all three cameras, if you're using them, the teleprompter, which is over here, your laptop for the teleprompter, those are for talking heads. You need audio, you need cameras, batteries, SD cards, lenses, all of those things. It sounds extremely overwhelming. You just need to make sure the night before you have all of that and you're sure you've double checked it. Because I've shown up so many times and I forget my drone or I forget batteries and I have to use my wife Jess's batteries. No bueno. So, to jump straight into it, set up the tripod first. Hi, Bear. So we're just gonna start out with the talking head. And then I will show you talking head with teleprompter. Then I will show you the talking head or the podcast. That's what I meant. So, got the tripod set up now. We're just gonna pretend like I'm the subject right here, and this is where the camera's going. In terms of our gear, the FX3 is the best camera alongside the A7S III. Both of them for photo shoot 12 megapixels. For video, they both shoot 4K 120, I think, or 4K 60 at least. I think the FX3 shoots 4K 120. For talking head videos, the FX3 is great. The FX30 is probably the necessary camera if you're using the teleprompter. So we'll be setting up with the FX30 with the 28-70 lens. It's the small, thin Sigma lens. Awesome, had to go get a battery. So, got a battery, stuck it in there in the bottom, and then we'll want an SD card. In terms of SD cards, you will always want to try to have your main camera with the V30 or V60 to V90 cards. So, for example, this card right here, might be a little bit hard to tell, but it says V60 on it. And that just means it writes faster. This card is meant more for this camera. This is also a CF Express Type A card. And I am not sure how fast it writes. I know these write extremely, extremely fast. So either of these are good. You'll see different ones, like this one is only V30, for example. Not ideal. Maybe it's fine in the side cameras. I don't know that I would put it in the main camera unless that's your only option. This one is another very expensive card, maybe $200 to $300. I feel like I'm showing off Pokemon cards. This one is V90. So this one is like one of the best ones that you can put in the camera alongside the CF Express cards. I wouldn't worry about double backing up and putting two cards in, just throw one in. I'm going to throw in a V90 card. This is our most expensive card, so please do not lose this. This is the CF Express Type A 1 terabyte card, which is insane. This thing is meant for like heavy duty shiz, but sticking this in the camera, you just slide this little guy down right here, and then push it to the side, and then it opens, and then you stick this in. Doesn't really matter too much which slot. When you turn on the camera, with this switch, it sometimes will say pixel mapping. Don't worry too much about that. Looks like right now it's on photo mode, so I'm just gonna hit mode and then go down and over to MR1 or MR2, either one. I have been realizing lately that we're shooting in 23 frames per second, and ideally we're shooting in 30. So you'll just click this FN button right here, and then you'll hit 23 and then go up to 29.97. Social media ideally is in 30 frames per second. Next thing is getting this guy on the tripod. So we'll figure out the settings in 2 seconds. This guy is the Peter McKinnon. It comes with the backpack, but it has all of our mounts in it. So what mount you're gonna want for this camera is the one that specifically has this red Ulanzi thing on it. It's like the mount that goes to all of the camera mounts that I have. It like clamps on. So you just squeeze these guys to release, and then it can lock, just so you know, right here like that. And then it has a Peak Design tripod mount attached to the bottom. So this guy always stays like this, unless there's a really good reason to change it. I feel like it's cropping my head too much. Maybe I should lift it up. Okay, there we go. So this guy, one of the tripods is bent. It's not this one, but the other tripod is bent. So it's got like a little bend right here. So when you bring this guy down, so first to put this on, you turn this guy so it's going from lock to unlock, push this clip down right here, and then put the front part in first and then the back part, and now you're good. Since we are shooting vertical only, and this is not at all for YouTube and it's only for clients, what we're probably going to want to do is we're going to throw an extra one of these guys, the mounts, to the side of the camera. And I would say the best side would be the side with the SD card slot. So we're gonna pop this guy back off. We're going to screw this on. And then it's probably not gonna stay tight, so you're going to want this little tool, multi-tool, and you're just going to slide out the flathead. You can use a key or your fingernail if you want to break your fingernail. But you just tighten this guy up right here, and now it's ready for vertical. So you can just push it on, but you just squeeze these guys. That makes it a little bit easier. And then you actually can't twist this guy at all unless you turn it. So this guy can be pushed in and out, just so you know. But you can lift it up and then tighten it, and then you can loosen it with this lower guy right here. And you'll just kind of turn it towards where you want it, look for the background. The main thing you want to do before you set up for a shoot is know where you're shooting. So know where you're shooting is the first step, then set up your lighting and tripods, and then set up the camera and the audio last, and then double check everything. But yeah, you've got this all set up right now. This looks pretty good. I'm just going to bring this closer so you can see everything. First things first, you've got a white balance button right here on the tripod. On the top it says WB. You click that, you go over to Kelvin. 5600 to 5000 is generally good. I'm just gonna put it at 5000. And then overall, it looks pretty good. One discrepancy, one thing you wanna keep an eye out for is 30 frames per second is our frame rate, so we need our shutter speed to be double our frame rate. So 1/50 isn't quite enough right here. We do not want to mess this up. It probably will look okay if you leave it like this, but we don't. It's just not cinema standard, and it can mess with the shutter, like the blur and stuff. So don't. Make sure you keep an eye on that. But you've got this guy right here, which adjusts the ISO. You've got this guy right here, which adjusts the aperture. Always keep the aperture at 2.8 unless there's a really good reason to change it. And then the top dial, which is, hold on. Okay, the front dial is the shutter speed. So the shutter speed we're just gonna bring to 1/60. since we have ND filters on all of these lenses at the moment, we have the ND filters on the 28-70 for the FX30, which is the smaller frame Super 35 sensor camera. We have an ND filter on this lens. We have an ND filter on the 28-70 for the FX3, the bigger one. And then we have an ND filter on the 70-180 or something like that, the longer lens that we use for podcasts. So what's gonna happen here is our goal is to have the ISO around like the like 200 to 1000 range, no more than 1000. We wanna keep it low, especially for this camera. And then we're going to adjust the ND filter once we have the settings that we want. So something I'm noticing here is that it does look dark. You do want the exposure, this +2 or +0. You do want the exposure to be about like probably 1.7, between +1 to 1.7 if possible. Don't have it below 0 ever, and don't have it over 2 because it'll blink. But this looks a little bit dark to me, so I'm just gonna lift the ISO a little bit and mess with the, let's see, the ND filter. So right now, I kind of want, this is weird because it's messing with the monitor, and you can see when I turn things, like it blanks out the monitor. So in this case, I'm just going to say +0.7 is fine. I wouldn't stress too hard about it as long as it's exposed well. Sometimes the camera can be finicky, so you can touch to focus, but I usually click this middle button to like reset the focus, and then the shutter button, like the normal camera shutter button, just click that in. You can kind of see how it's like showing that green up right there. So I'll click these two sometimes if it's not quite focusing how I want it to. But yeah, from here, I can't quite see that, but I believe based on where I'm at, I want my eye line. Let's see if I can see myself. It's kind of reflecting. I'm just gonna bring this closer so I can see it. Awesome, so this actually looks pretty good. I'm just gonna hit record so I can double check, but you will see a tally light on the front of the camera and a red square if it's recording, and it'll say recording at the top, and it'll have red on the top. So you always need to make sure as soon as you're ready to record that it is good to go. But yeah, this right here, this framing honestly does look pretty good. Something you want to do is make sure obviously you have adequate lighting. If you're shooting in front of a window, that's great. We cannot be shooting without good lighting 90% of the time. There isn't a good reason. So we always need to make sure we have good lighting. If we can, let's set up a hair light. You want that basically opposite, because right now I've got this light over here and I've got the window light, but this is my key light right here. It's about 45 degrees off. The key light you'll generally want either, 25 degrees to 45 degrees off, something like that. Not quite 90, just about 45. And this should give you a nice shadow. If I close the blinds, it would give me that, but I think this looks pretty good. You want the eye line on the upper third, whether you're filming horizontally or vertically, you want it on the upper third. Having the face in the middle of the screen does not look good. And then having the face or the head, like the eye line towards the top, like up here, like with no headroom. Can't really see. Maybe I'll just move this guy a little bit. Okay, now it's like reflecting a ton. That's better. Okay, so having the person like this is not ideal, and having them right here is not ideal. You want them probably right about here, and then you can back them up a little bit depending on the video, or you can have them forward and closer. They can lean in like this. Just depends on the video. But this is the setup for talking head. The exposure looks pretty good to me. Sorry, so I just realized I was actually shooting on the DJI Pocket in 4K 60, which is gonna waste a ton of space, so I just changed that. Anyways, this looks good to me overall. I would say make sure your audio is good, make sure your lighting is good. As much as you possibly can, we need 2 sources of audio. That's like the minimum, which sounds crazy. I'm not saying you should do more than 2 sources, but having a source on the camera doesn't count. This guy for me is my one source, and I don't have a second source right now, so I'm taking a chance. And we can't be taking chances like that with clients, especially if we're not 1,000,000% sure that we're catching the audio. The only time I might be okay with us having one source is if we're using the DJI Pocket mics, and it's the thing is on the top of the camera, and then it's also the thing is on the top of the camera, and it's also going into the camera, and you can see that the levels on the screen are bouncing, on the DJI Pocket device are bouncing, and the DJI Pocket itself is recording internally. So you'll hit record on this or on the top thing, and it's recording. I don't have the DJI Pocket with me right now, so I'll just use it. I'll use an older version, which is fine. But that's the main part. I'll show you the audio really quick. For the DJI Pocket, the way that this guy works is it has internal storage. You probably already know this, but it's fine. When I'm using this, ideally, if there's a magnet on this, you can clip it to them somewhere, hide it, or they can hold it if they're comfortable with that. I'm personally fine with holding my audio. A lot of people, it's uncomfortable to them, so you can have it kind of booming in above them if you have something like that. For the most part, you're just going to be clipping it on them and letting them deal with the fact that there's a big audio device on their chest. So anyways, this goes on, and then this little guy, cannot plug into the side of the camera with USB-C, so you can mount it this way like this, or you can mount it this way. If you're filming content for yourself or your client needs to see the audio levels, you can put it here. 90% of the time, if you're filming them, I would almost always have it facing this way and just stick it into the hot shoe like that. You'll just push it in a little bit further. And then there is an audio out. Do not plug into the headphone jack, because that will not feed to the camera. Plug into the audio out, and then you'll flip this guy up right here behind the screen, and there's a red audio in. And you will see, as soon as you plug this in and it's on, and the mic is good, you can test it, and it should feed into the camera. So it's highly important. Do not mess up the audio, whatever you do. If the worst thing that could happen is if you don't have an audio source and your only option is an iPhone, have them hold an iPhone while they're talking. They're gonna think it's kind of dumb, but honestly, that's better than having bad audio. That's just my personal opinion. Also, making sure your audio area isn't overly echoey. If you're in like a gym, like a old-fashioned like echoey church gym, it might sound echoey. That's not ideal. Carpeted is always better. Keep an eye on that. I wouldn't focus too much, because generally you will have a carpeted area. Just trying to cover everything that I can remember. But yeah, that guy just gets plugged in, and then you can swipe up and hit record right there, and that will record into the device. When you are taking the audio off of the DJI mic, because this will have a backup for you, the camera audio will have some because it fed into it, and then this will have its own backup. Do not trash the audio on this. You have to stick it into its case and then swipe up and delete it manually in the device. So whatever you do, just obviously after you transfer, I'm not saying before you transfer, after you transfer, make sure to delete it so that you have the backup, but it can mess things up if you delete it out of your trash can on your MacBook. It just messes with the internal file storage. Sorry. So other than that, what else is there? Okay, let's do the teleprompter really quick. Teleprompter is a little bit annoying. It's kind of frustrating, but you will have to have a specific software. So you'll want to download Elgato Camera Hub onto your Mac. And then what you will need is a USB-C to C cable, and you'll be plugging that from the teleprompter into your MacBook, and then you'll want to sit in front of the MacBook. So I'll kind of show you in a sec, but we're just gonna back things up a little bit so we can get set up again. And this camera can stay right here. For the teleprompter, when you are using the teleprompter, you will be using probably a light stand. Don't waste it on a tripod unless that's all you have. But yeah, you just, obviously, I'm pretty sure you know how to set these up, but tighten all the guys that need tightening and loosen the ones to extend it. I should just cut that out because that was the gayest thing I've ever said. Okay. This should be locked. There we go. For the teleprompter, you want the teleprompter piece a little bit lower, and then what's gonna happen, so what's gonna happen is the teleprompter might come with this camera on here. We're just going to shut the camera down, and we're going to remove this backplate piece because we do not need to put the camera on this little rail right here. This is just for the ZV-1, the Sony ZV-1, the little guy. If you ever needed to film on this little guy, you can, but for the most part, this is just for my webcam and filming my content. So, just gonna set this guy aside. It's this little guy right here that unscrews, not the upper guy because that's for the camera, it's the lower one. And that just unscrews. You can set that aside. And now we've got just the teleprompter. It has no batteries or anything like that. It's just the device. It's powered by the laptop. So to put this on here, you need a mount. So let's see. For what mount do you need? This teleprompter already has a clamp. So what you can actually do is get one of these guys that I showed you earlier. And then you can get, let's see, get one of these guys. It might have something on the bottom. If it does, unscrew it and make sure to put it back on later. But you're going to put this guy right on here like this. Now you have that, that adjustable mount where you need it. When you're screwing this on, by the way, you'll want to make sure this is all the way tightened because the underneath part is connected. Like, it sounds weird, but it's connected so that it won't screw on unless this is tight. So anyways, you tighten that, screw it on, and then I'm going to throw this guy on, which is the lower part of the mount. It's like the clamp. And then this guy, the teleprompter, will just go on here. Like this. If you ever can't get things on, this red guy right here slides to the side. So you need to make sure it's slid in the middle because otherwise you can't do anything. It locks the mechanism. So anyways, you're gonna push this guy in, make sure that's good to go. You hear that clamp. And then what will happen is with the teleprompter, you want the teleprompter lowered so that the lens is right up against the glass. Don't scratch the glass, but you want it right up against the glass. A little bit lower. That looks pretty good to me. Okay, something else you'll see. So you'll pull this guy over the camera like old-fashioned photography. Something you'll notice is that it might show up on the bottom or the top part of the camera feed. So you'll want to adjust it a little bit, and then you might even need to zoom in just a tiny bit. Not like zoom in manually with the lens. There we go. This looks pretty good. From here, I would appreciate if you, a day before at least, got your computer ready. Not like an hour before. Like, download Elgato prompter software, Elgato Camera Hub. Download that, and you're going to plug a USB-C into this side right here. You'll see a little port. You're gonna plug that cord into your computer, and then it should start showing up. So you're gonna go into that, make sure it's all set up. You can paste the script into there. Make sure you have your client's script the night before if possible. We don't want to be making a million revisions in the middle of the video or having to deal with that. So we just want to have, okay, I know what their script is. I know it's ready. I can just throw it in. But yeah, basically when they're filming, let's say they're sitting right here, you're going to want to sit like right about here. And it sounds stupid, but you're on your laptop and you need to make sure that what they're reading is aligning, because you can go over with your mouse and adjust the scrolling speed, and you can like manually on the teleprompter have your mouse on there so you're scrolling and going a little bit faster or slower or going back to the top for them. But we want to make this a quick process. Every single video that they film ideally can take like 3 or 4 minutes after a few takes, you know, because it is on a teleprompter. I would avoid ever having anyone too close to the teleprompter. Having people about like 3 or 4 feet minimum away from the teleprompter is ideal. Because you do have, you know, the lines, and you don't want their eyes looking like they're reading the teleprompter. So That's the teleprompter. A major caveat for the teleprompter that you need to be aware of is that sometimes the teleprompter and the computer won't sync up. So what I've had to do is I've had to unplug it a few times. I've had to restart the software, not the computer, but just the software. Maybe once or twice I've had to restart, but that's why you need to just get it set up and make sure you know what you're doing. And force quit the teleprompter software if you need to. Unplug it, plug it back in. Just try to get it to show up. I've had a few problems before, but 90%, every single time I've had that problem, it's just been me needing to restart it a few times. But yeah, once I plug it in, it usually pops up, and then I can have it as a separate screen, and I'm able to just adjust the scroll speed as they're reading. So I think that's 90% of it. Like I said, you'll want a light for them, either in front or about 20 to 45 degrees off to the side, lighting them as the key light with a softbox. I'm not gonna explain how to set that up today, the light. You'll probably wanna make sure you can do that, but it's just a C-stand. Make sure it's not gonna fall over and hurt anyone, because we don't have insurance yet for that. And then if you can set up a hair light, technically this could be my hair light, this guy back here. But yeah, that's the camera and the teleprompter. As for podcasts, I'm just gonna move the teleprompter off to the side for a sec. As for podcasts, it gets kind of fun. With podcasts, you need to make sure that the video is probably not going to be produced on YouTube, because if it is, it could possibly, it'll determine whether or not you're filming horizontally or vertically. And right now this is vertical, which means when we try to produce a horizontal video, we're gonna have to crop in a ton, and it just kind of becomes a mess. So if they are wanting horizontal, and it is for YouTube, which is very unlikely, most of our clients are just for Instagram, just film it all, vertically. When you're filming a podcast, same settings apply that I mentioned earlier. If you need to, for the lighting of the cameras, the ISO, you'll want to set if you need more light is what I'm trying to say, either increase the light you already have, bring more lights in, or before you do that, you can also set the FX30 to 2000 ISO, and that's its second base ISO, and it looks good at that point. Do not bring the FX30 to 12,800. That is only for the FX3 and the A7S3. The A7S3 and FX3 have full frame sensors, so their base ISO for all three cameras is about 600, 800. For the FX30, it's 2,000 if you need to go up that high. For the FX3 and A7S3, it's 12,800. And don't go way above that, don't go in the middle. 600 or 800 or 12,800 or 2,000 for the FX30. For podcasts, the same rules apply. What I would say is you need to make sure that your main camera is good to go. You can put, let's see, if you need to, these batteries last hours and hours, and if you think it's gonna be longer than, a 45-minute to an hour-long podcast, your main camera should always be lasting the duration of the podcast, because if one camera goes out on the side or another, a card fills out, battery dies, whatever, you'll have your main camera, which you can crop into for different angles as much as you need. What I would say is you want the main camera straight on to both people. So this guy might have to go pretty far back, but you want it straight on, and getting every single person that's supposed to be in the frame, and then the side cameras should basically be filming whoever is on which side opposite of them. So for example, if this was a side camera and the middle camera is over here and then the other side camera is over here, if I'm facing this way talking to this person, it'd be more likely than this way. So this camera would probably be the one capturing the person I'm talking to, and then the camera over there where the teleprompter is would be filming me. You do not want to be filming the side of their face, you want to be filming them talking. Another important thing is looking room. you want wherever they're looking to basically have more room. These are just some camera techniques that, you know, are used in Hollywood. But for example, if you're filming me on this DJI Pocket right here, having my face right here on this rule of thirds looking this way looks a lot better than if I was talking and my head was right here. So you do want to give them looking room. The middle camera for the podcast should be the widest, as wide as it needs to be to capture everyone. And then the side camera should be cropped into, you know, maybe full body or maybe just waist up. Just depends on how many people. If there's 4 people, then you might be getting waist up or full body. If it's 1 person, you can aim for maybe just like their waist up or this, you know. But you really want to make sure that their head isn't going totally out of frame. Like if you're filming someone and they're kind of like this, you don't want that to happen. But yeah, that's 90% of it. For filming a podcast, just throw the light in the middle behind the main camera so it lights everyone equally. Don't worry about like technical, complicated lighting scenarios. And if you can throw a hair light on them, which is just the light opposite of the key light. So it'd be like if this guy is my key light, the hair light would be back here opposite, and it would be a warmer temperature. Your lights, you want the temperature to match the main camera. If the main camera's temperature is 5,000 Kelvin, then you want this to be 5,000 Kelvin. If you're filming next to a window and the daylight is probably 5,000 Kelvin, then you want this to be 5,000 Kelvin. The hair light can be, you know, like 3,300, 3,200 Kelvin to make it like a little bit warmer and give you like that contrasted lighting. But yeah, that's 90% of it. For the audio for podcasts, if you're having 2 people, you know, you use the Tula mics and the if they can hold the Tula mics, that's fine if they're comfortable with it. If they'd prefer the stand, you can set up the stand as well. Headphones are kind of just like, it's up to them. And then the other thing that you do want to make sure is that they never breathe into the Tula mics because it will ruin the audio. You got to have them like 8 to 12 inches away. So right about here, if you have the Tula mic right here and you can feel your breath when you're breathing, that means it's going to blow into the mic and completely ruin the audio. The other thing about the Tula mics is they do need mounts and all of that. You'll just have to set all of that up. But I'll get all that together for when you guys are shooting. But trying to think if there's anything else. And then you do have no mono. No mono, you make sure all of the mics are connected, pull them out one by one and make sure they show up on the device, pull the square device out, hit record when you're good to go, and then give them the mics and make sure that they're putting the mic on the outside and not the inside and the magnets going on the inside, and make sure to get the magnets back after filming. Lots of things to remember. Make sure that they remember that there's a magnet on the mic because that will help them remember. Other than that, I'm trying to think if there's anything else. Just make sure you're recording. Check the batteries, check the storage on the cameras, make sure there's still plenty. Like this guy says, there's still 3 hours and 41 minutes, so I'm chilling. Make sure there's storage, make sure the battery's not at 50% and at 100% when you're filming, and make sure all 3 cameras are recording, double check them, triple check them, make sure the audio devices are rolling, and make sure you have 2 audio backups. So if it's 2 people for a podcast, you could theoretically just set up the 2 DJI mics and you're fine, or do the 2 no mono mics. Those are also great options. And then where you want the DJI mics about like 8 to 12 inches as well away from the person. So you don't want them clear down here, you want them about like right here in this area. I wouldn't recommend putting it all the way up here, that's probably not ideal, but anyways, I think that's about everything. If you're filming a talking head outside, make sure that the sun is not directly on their face, that it's kind of off to the side. You just don't want them staring at the sun. But yeah, I think you got this. Don't stress too much. There will be some notes in Notion along with this, like checklists and things to remember, stuff like that. Don't leave any audio behind, and we do need to make sure we charge the batteries soon after we're done filming, just because we do have shoots very consistently. So yeah. One other thing, if you can, always make sure to get there at least 40 minutes, if not an hour before. You do not want to be setting up still when you're supposed to be filming. So if the shoot is at 12, see if you can get there at 11, show up at 11, be ready 20, 30 minutes early, ready to film. If you're there sitting for 40 minutes and you're already done setting up, good for you. That has never happened to me. I'm always still setting up when people are I'm always still setting up when people are supposed to be filming, and I don't want that to happen. So our goal, and my goal as well, is to be there an hour early and to be ready 30 minutes early. So scout the location, bring the equipment in, get set up, meet the client, all of that. But yeah, I think you should be good. If you have any other questions, or I missed anything, or there's something you don't understand, just let me know. But yeah, these are the main things about like talking heads and the teleprompter and podcasts that you need to know. So you got this.